Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Malicious Compliance. In today's episode, customer asked me to count out a bag of live crickets in front of her, loses out on bonus crickets. Diva Chef told me just stand there and be quiet, okay? Want me to cook your steak a little longer than everyone else's? Okay. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Customer asked me to count out a bag of live crickets in front of her, loses out on bonus crickets. I, 32F, work part-time at a pet store to supplement my income as my salary of a full-time teacher doesn't always pay the bills, plus I have a few pets and 20% off of in-store purchases is rather helpful. Anyway, one of the things we supply are live and frozen feeder animals for things like reptiles, certain aquatic creatures, and invertebrates. These include things like mice, rats, dubia roaches, bloodworms, mealworms, waxworms, superworms, and crickets. The mice and rats are either frozen or live, but either way they're easy to count and box up for the customer. Dubia roaches, mealworms, waxworms, and superworms are pre-packaged and price-marked, but the crickets are not. Crickets are kept in these large containers with mesh top, egg cartons for the crickets to climb and hide in, cricket food, and hydration. This means when customers ask for crickets, which we usually sell by the dozen, we have to count and retrieve them manually while putting them in a plastic bag we then fill with air and tie off to go with the customer. Our method for transferring the crickets is to lightly tap the egg cartons over a funnel-like object that doesn't have a hole at the bottom. We tap the crickets in, wrap the plastic bag around the mouth of the funnel, then tip it and lightly tap the crickets into the bag. Some crickets jump in out of order or cling to others, so often customers are given bonus crickets, which we're okay with. It's better than shorting them. So, customers are always given the right amount or often more than what they asked for without an increase in price. Most people get this. The customer in this story did not. A woman comes in and she asked for 4 dozen crickets, 48 crickets total. I went to the back, tapped the crickets from the cartons into the funnel and then counted them into the bag. As per usual, the occasional extra cricket tumbled or hopped in, probably putting the total to a bit over 50 by the time I was done. I bagged them, tied the bag, then took them to the counter. Now, I don't know if this woman was having a bad day or she had been stiffed by another store in the past, but she demanded that we count out the crickets in front of her before she pay for them. I explained that it was likely that she got more than what she asked for and counting out 48 crickets individually would take a little while. She insisted she wanted to be sure we weren't ripping her off. So, I got one of those small, plastic critter keepers and a pair of tongs. I opened the bag, making it deflate and slightly more painful to work with, and inserted the tongs. Delicately so not to crush the crickets, I grabbed each one with the tongs and started counting slowly so not to crush the crickets with the tongs or lose my place while counting, something I do struggle with, and dropped each individually counted cricket into the critter keeper. So after about 5 to 10 minutes at the counter meticulously counting crickets with tongs, and maybe deliberately taking a little bit longer than I had to out of spite, a line was building up behind the woman and I was getting close to the end of my count. Eventually I hit the grand total of what she paid for, 48 crickets. And wouldn't you believe it? There were 10 left over in the bag, almost a whole extra free dozen she would have gotten had she not asked me to count. I said, "Oh. Would you look at that, my mistake? You were right, I did miscount. I'll put these other ones back and ring you up for the 48, I'll be right back." And before she could protest, I wandered off to dump the last 10 crickets back into the cricket container. When I came back to check her out, she was silent, not looking at me, did her best to ignore the irritated looks of the customers lining up behind her while I poured her 48 crickets back into a plastic bag. She paid, then slunk off sheepishly out the door without a thank you or a glance back. I then got through the rest of the line quickly and apologized to the customers in line for the wait. I sent them home with some free samples, thanked them for their patience, then continued along with my shift. She never complained, and she did return to the location several times after. She never asked anyone to count crickets again. Diva chef told me just stand there and be quiet, okay? Background. Let me take you back into my past. Again, I'm in the kitchen in a large culinary company/catering company. You get these more often than most. A diva in the kitchen. Could be a cook, a chef, or someone with a lot of attitude. Let me introduce you Chef Smokey, reason explained in a moment. At the time he was a line cook with some attitude issues. He had just joined on with us and he acted like he was gonna be the next top chef in this company. He came over to our main line, looked things over, and then he came to the prep zone. Now the difference in the prep zone and main line is the type of burners. On the main line we have our gas ranges, 6 in fact. In the prep zone we have almost all L-shaped counters with induction burners set up. On unusually swamped nights the prep zone will handle appetizers for the main line. The story. Here comes Chef Smokey about to take the lead on appetizers. Myself and one other person are working hard but apparently not smart enough. So Chef Smokey grabs multiple pans and puts them on the induction burners. He revs them up super high and adds his olive oil. Now there are 2 glitches in this scenario. Issue 1, induction burners. These older ones use specific pans and special setup to work. So they can be temperamental when they do work, and if you use the wrong pan either the pan won't work or they act up. Issue 2, olive oil smokes faster than the normal canola, vegetable, or mixed oil we have on site. Recipe calls for olive oil. We don't pump our induction burners to super high, especially when you're using pans not made for it. The pans work, but they can run super hot, overload the induction burner, or not work at all. He sprays oil into all 5 pans he has on super high. He give us a super conceited look. Me, you might not wanna. Chef Smokey, zip it. Me, but you seriously might not. Chef Smokey, just be quiet and watch. Me, with all respect you. I reach to lower the settings on the induction, he nearly spanks my hand. Chef Smokey, just stand there and be quiet. Malicious compliance. Okay. Learn the hard way I think. Chef Smokey starts his first pan dropping his appetizer to cook. It comes out great, but as he reaches for his second pan the oil has already insta-burned. Pan 3, 4, 5 are also of burned oil. They're smoking. So being a resilient, smart, and problem-solving human he is, he wipes the pans and sprays oil in them. Oil insta-burns. Okay, he tries a new tactic. Chef Smokey drops oil and then drops his appetizer material at the same moment. Nice try. His appetizers insta-burns because his oil was already burned quick. He goes through this cycle about 3 times of burning product pretty fast. He getting raging pissed. So I try to stop him, but he's gotta try one last time. Burns it again. He lays his oil in his pans again. I lean in and say, Me, hey Smokey the Bear, your oil's burning again. Aftermath. Chef Smokey backs off. Then it's each man to a pan, heat turned to the moderate level. While Chef Smokey starts the rep of the lost product he had burned through. Let me note he burned most of day's product, so he was going to spend the day reprepping. He spent a good day silent. The guys in the kitchen used my nickname I gave him, some called him Smokey the Bear, some called him Chef Smokey, and it stuck till he quit. Want me to cook your steak a little longer than everyone else's? Okay. Let me start this off by saying, I am sh*t at cooking steak. Not this isn't edible anymore bad, but accidentally over or undercooked it bad. I can never get that perfect medium rare, and if I do, it's a miracle. Everyone in my household likes medium rare steaks, as I'm sure many people do. Most of the time I end up undercooking them, which isn't a big deal because I can just cook them a little longer. However, it seems to go from rare to well done in a very short amount of time. My mom always brings up my bad steak cooking skills, and it kinda peeves me off. I'm trying my best and no one else in the family complains. Just her. Now, before anyone says, "Why doesn't your mom cook?" Or "Why can't she make her own food?" My mom is disabled, she can barely stand long enough to make a sandwich without being in a lot of pain. My brother and dad work all day, so I'm the only one left to cook dinner every night. It's been this way for years. And yes, even though I've been cooking for years, I still can't perfect a steak. Anyway, today I was making steak for dinner. I was very confident that today would be the day I get a perfect medium rare. As I was just finishing up the steaks, my mom chimes in, "Can you cook mine longer than the rest of them?" From the living room. Now today's is just an off day for me. Why, but I just don't have the best mood today, and I got a little pissed off that she asked me that because I guess she would just assume I'm gonna make it too rare for her. She wants it to be cooked longer? Fine. I take 2 of the steaks off the heat to rest while I keep hers cooking. As I'm pre-cutting my steak, I like it pre-cut, don't judge me, I noticed something. Could it be the perfect medium rare I've been dreaming of? Yes. Yes, it's perfect. A perfect medium rare. I was delighted. After I had finished cutting my steak, I take my mom's steak off the heat to rest. I wasn't going to completely butcher this steak because it was a very nice cut of steak and I wouldn't want to ruin it, so it was still very juicy, but as I was cutting her steak, again, because she's disabled, I see it was definitely well done. In the end, when I served it up, I told her, "Too bad you wanted yours cooked longer. Yours is now well done instead of medium rare like the rest." I unfortunately didn't get the reaction I was hoping for, as she seemed pretty content with it. But I hope she stops asking me now. Edit, since y'all like to be know-it-alls in the comments. My relationship with my mom is incredible. I love her to bits. I would be broken if anything bad happened to her. She's my best friend, and giving a disabled woman a well-done steak does not make me a bad human. WTF. I have a meat thermometer. It works on all meat perfectly fine except steak for some reason. A medium rare temperature, I let the steak rest before it hits the needle temperature. Due to it continuing to cook while resting, will still come out well done. Don't ask why, I have no idea. I believe this is malicious compliance because she asked me to cook hers longer and I complied, knowing it was going to come out well done and not medium rare like she hoped. She was perfectly fine with a well done steak in the end, so everything turned out fine. It's not a grand stick it to the man kind of story, but a more everyday menial kind of malicious compliance MO. Unless you're a mod, I don't care if you disagree. For those of you that gave actual tips and advice, thank you. You're very kind. I hope maybe in the future my steak cooking will get better. LMAO. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.